Family, 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 family. Welcome to the Practical Purpose Podcast. Tonight, I'm gonna give some people some time to get in here. Listen, y'all, I'm tired. I am tired. I'm tired. It's a difference between being tired and tired. I'm tired. I'm tired, man. Listen, we had a long week this week. Had a lot going on. Um, Today, son had a basketball game. Um, I'm just tired. Listen, we went to so Deandra says, "Why am I tired?" Me and my wife went to Shay's Lounge. If y'all are in Columbia, it's a live jazz spot called Shay's Lounge. We went to Shay's Lounge last night. And listen, one of my friends actually, his band was there playing. He went to college with me, Rodney Foster and Company. Look up Rodney Foster and Company. And he said some things last night. He had the crowd mad at him last night. This has nothing to do with the podcast. I'm just talking. So he said, "Yo, we're not playing Before I Let Go." He said, "Everybody want to hear Before I Let Go." He said, "That's not even Frankie Beverly and Maze's best song." And a lot of people got upset, but I've been saying that for a long time. They got a lot of good songs. Happy Feelings, We Are One. Before I Let Go, it's just the one that we hear all the time. That's the cookout song. That's the wedding reception song. That's the one we hear all the time. But he said they weren't playing that because we hear it too much. But it was a great event. And my son had a game. So I'm tired, man. I'm tired. But we got work to do. So because we have work to do, we start in 2023. How are y'all looking with your goals? We hadn't talked about goals in this series yet, but there's so many people who started 6 days ago, and now they already having to begin again. Like what we said that was going to happen. We said that we've got to continue to begin again, over and over again. All right. So we're going to continue our series that we're in. We're in a series called Begin Again. And we said that in this series, we were going to talk about beginning again. We were going to talk about purpose. We're going to talk about goals, and we're going to talk about plans. And tonight we're talking about purpose. We're talking about purpose. If y'all hear my dog is outside going ham right now. She mad she not in the house. So just excuse her. She'll be all right. We're talking about purpose. And I know purpose in 30, 45 minutes can't hit everything. But the point of the podcast is not to give you every nugget that you're going to need. It's to make you hungry, so that you'll go out and study on your own. You'll go out and find what you need for your life in a practical sense on your own, right? And so I just want to do this for self-reflection. I want you to reflect on the topics that we talk about on this show. And once we talk about those topics and apply some biblical perspective to them, you should go back study them for yourself, and begin that process of change. We talked about that last week, right? We talked about how nothing is going to change until you do. And listen, I ain't no prophet, but I prophesied. I told y'all the preachers were going to tell you God is doing a new thing. I watched 2 or 3 watch night services, and sure enough, them preachers were saying God gonna do a new thing in 2023. I told y'all they was gonna say that. And we established last week that nothing changes in your life until you do. Nothing is gonna change in your life until you change. We established that last week. And I know it was kind of upsetting and antithetical to a lot of people, but it's not always about doing something new. It's about having the grit to begin again and again, and to continue with that persistent level of moving forward. All right. So tonight, let me go back again. Last week, we also talked about those 3 R's you need to begin again. You got to refocus. We said that that was mental, right? We talked about refocusing. We talked about realignment, right? We said that that was relational, that sometimes we prefer allegiance over alignment. And because we've been close to people for our entire lives or for a long period of time, we don't we keep them around us, or we stay close and connected to them even when they're not aligned with our purpose. Right? We talked about refocus and realignment. We talked about recalibration. We talked about the fact that if you plan on moving to the next level in your life, to reach your goals, to execute your plans, you're going to have to be willing to change your position on some things, right? Not anything dealing with your moral compass, anything dealing with your standards, but you're going to have to be willing to try something over and over again, and then apply another tactic or strategy to it to work. And I'm telling you, I just put out a wisdom for the weekend. If you don't have a strategy, you wasting time. You don't have if you don't have a strategy, you're wasting time. You're shooting at nothing and you're hitting it every time. If you don't have a strategy, you've got to be strategic, right? Because whoever's attacking you is strategic. So why not be strategic, right? Right? We talked about those things last week. And so today we're going to talk. We're just going to talk about purpose. I told you I'm tired. So we're just going to talk. We're going to talk about purpose. All right. And so I've been getting a lot of feedback on the podcast. People have been saying, Doc, you make it very simple. You make it very practical for me to apply to my life. Right. And then I get the other side of that is, Doc, you don't put enough scriptures in there. I need more scriptures. Listen, this is not sermon. This is not a sermon. This ain't Bible study. The purpose of this podcast is to give you a practical life principle and show it to you in a scripture, because a scripture is a foundational thing you can hold on to. It's not to exegete the text. That's not what we're going to do here. What we're going to do is we're going to look at life principles. And in order for you to really walk those life principles out, you have to understand that there is a foundation to these life principles, that the creator of life is going to give us the tools we need to walk it out. All right, so we're going to talk about purpose. Purpose is powerful. If you're ready to talk about purpose, I want you to do one thing for me. I want you to put "let's go" in the chat. If you're in the chat, share. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, share. If you're watching the replay on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter, share. Go to the page, like, subscribe, right? Because the more people that do those things, the more messages can get out to people. All right. So we're talking about purpose tonight. We're talking about purpose for the next couple minutes tonight. What is purpose? What is purpose? Oh man, my brother. This is my brother, y'all. This guy right here, Renard. That's my brother. Man, listen. I had to dust him off in college. We played ball against each other, but he's a bad dude on the basketball court. But we both are leaders, and this guy really motivates me, man. Man, I appreciate you. Appreciate you. Listen, what is purpose? What is purpose? Because you have to establish purpose if you're going to have goals and plans. You have to establish purpose. Purpose should define and purpose should anchor your life, right? We can all say that, but we don't know what purpose is, right? So, what is purpose? You've got to know where you're going. You've got to know the destination, and purpose will help you get there. If you don't know, listen to this, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Let me say that again. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. You have to walk in purpose if you're going to get to your destination, right? And so we've got to understand what purpose is. I suggest to you that your purpose is your why. Your purpose is your why. Look, I read a book some years ago. Here it is right here. I don't know if you can see it. Start with Why by Simon Sinek. And he says some powerful things in this book. I read this book maybe in 2020, right? And he said this, listen to this. He says, if you don't know why, you can't know how. If you don't know why, you can't know how. We are too quick to put out goals and plans for our lives, but we don't know our purpose. So if you don't know why, you can't know the how. You can't know how to get somewhere if you don't know why you're going. All right. So he says, if you don't know why, you can't know how. And so often in our lives, we put so much focus on a goal, on a New Year's resolution, right? That by February, we're already off track because we have been told that we can only begin again on January 1st. So we don't begin again because we don't know our purpose. This is a must read for 2023. If you never read this book, Simon Sinek, Start With Why. It's powerful. I want to read a little snippet of it for you. This is a read aloud. For my educators, this is a read aloud. For my non-educators, this is what we do with kids. We read aloud, right? And when you become adult, what you do is you get an audio book and you do a read aloud. Listen to what he says. Why? Very few people or companies can clearly articulate why they do what they do. There's some people on here right now. You got a business, you got an LLC, you got a company, but you can't articulate your why. You can't tell us why you do what you do. You have a purpose, but you don't understand your purpose because you can't articulate your why. Your purpose is your why. Listen to this. When I say why, I don't mean to make money. Money is a result. By why, I mean, what is your purpose, your cause, or your belief? Why does your company exist? Why do you get out of bed every morning? And why should anyone care? That's purpose. What's the driving force? I gave y'all the analogy last time that my dad used to work 12-hour shifts, 3 days a week, 3 days in a row, and then get 2 days off or whatever. And when he came home and he saw his children, I'm sure that his children and his wife was his why. Right? It was his purpose. And we're going to get to that in a second. But he was able to walk out that purpose because he understood his why. All right. When most organizations or people think, act, or communicate, they do so from the outside in, from what to why, and for a good reason. They go from clearest to the fuzziest. We say what we do. We sometimes say how we do it. Listen to this, but we rarely say why we do what we do. He has something in his book he calls the golden circle. And I know if you've been in educational leadership circles, you've heard this. And the golden circle is 3 circles. And inside is the why. Then you have the how. Then you have the what. Most of us can articulate the what because that's the goal. Most of us can oftentimes articulate the how because that's the plan. But we can't articulate the why because that is the purpose. And you can't begin anything effectively if you do not begin with purpose. You can't begin anything effectively if you don't begin with purpose. You can't do anything in your life effectively without purpose. Listen, I gave this analogy before. My mom used to come home and she would just go in the back room and say, I'm not cooking until the dishes are done. And I would get up and do them dishes. What was my why? I wanted something to eat. I wanted her to cook it. I didn't get up and do the dishes just haphazardly. I did it with a purpose. Now, that's a very simplistic example, but you do everything you do effectively. If you do it effectively, you got to begin with your purpose. Listen, your purpose is your why, and oftentimes your frustration will lead you to your purpose. Your frustration will lead you to your purpose. The things that bother you the most are oftentimes, Dr. Darius Daniel says, the things that you were called and purposed to fix. The things that bother you the most, the thing that frustrates you the most. For me, a lack of knowledge frustrates me the most. That's why I've been called to be an educator. Right? For me, the lack of communication frustrates me the most. That's why I've been called to be a leader. Listen, the things that frustrate you the most. Oftentimes we say that your purpose is what you would do for no money. And I agree with that. But we don't want to look at the harsh reality that whatever is frustrating me, I've probably been called to fix. Your purpose is going to frustrate you. And frustration leads to the discovery of your purpose. Listen, you were born because there is something God wanted done that requires your presence. Let me say that again. You are here because there's something that God wanted done that requires your presence. And I'm going to get to this a little bit later. But there are consequences for unfulfilled purpose. There are consequences. There are people that are not here with us anymore that could still be here if someone fulfilled their purpose. It's going to be tough. Listen, why your purpose? Why am I here? Why am I here? You're here because you've been called. And the problem with being called for many of us is that we don't understand that because if I believe that I'm called, then I have to believe that there's a caller. Let me say that again. If you believe you are called, then there must be a caller. And in church circles, now I know there's a lot of people on here that's not in church circles, and I know there are a lot of people who are on here who are in church circles, and I always make them upset. But in church circles, they always talk about the calling without focusing on the caller. And if you believe you're called to do something, then it would behoove you to get to know the caller because they can point you in the direction of your purpose. If you believe you're called, then there must be a caller. To start finding and fulfilling your purpose, you need to analyze your titles. People ask me all the time, Doc, how do I find my purpose? How do I listen? Start with your titles. What do you mean by that? You're a father, you're a mother, you're a sister, you're a brother, you're a leader, right? You are a sibling. You have so many titles that you hold. You're a business owner, you're a grandfather, a grandmother. Are you excellent in those titles? Because your titles should point you to your purpose. Are you excellent in those titles? Are you an excellent sister? Are you an excellent friend? Are you an excellent brother? You should be excellent in your titles. Your titles should point you towards your purpose. All right. And once you begin to discover your purpose and and you look at your titles, there's a particular part of ownership that comes with it. You've got to own it. You got to own it, man. I own being a father. I own it. I own it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not perfect in it. I own it though. Coach, man, Coach Clark, that's my guy, man. That guy and passion. That's the if I had to describe this man in one word, it's passion. Everything he do is passionate about it. I love that. I love that. Listen, ownership. You have to own your purpose. We don't manage well what we don't take ownership of. We don't manage well what we don't take ownership of. And that's the problem with leadership. Leadership causes you to have to take ownership of things that you didn't do. Leadership causes you to have to fix mistakes that you didn't make. That comes with ownership and purpose. When you're a father, you're going to fix some mistakes that your child makes that you didn't make, but you have to own it. Right? You own it. When you become an owner of your purpose and become a owner of what you're doing, only then can you fix problems. You can't fix anything that you don't own. And you won't ever manage well what you don't take ownership of. That's why we squander our time. We don't take ownership of it. That's why you throw away your money, because you don't take ownership of it. Management comes by ownership. You got to own it. Listen, your purpose should determine your goals. And we're going to goals next week. Your purpose should determine your goals, and your goals are determined by your destination. Your purpose should determine your goals, and your goals are determined by your destination. And the reason why so many people who start January 1 doing well and by January 7th have fallen on their face is because they didn't start with purpose. They didn't start with their why. They started with their what or their how. And you've always have to start with your why. You got to know your purpose. You got to know your purpose. Coach says ownership is key. It's key. You got to own it. Man, that's what my best friend. I don't know if he's in the chat. I know he's gonna watch at some point. Will my bear. That's his word for the year. Ownership. Got to own it. Y'all hear Bella going off back there? Ownership. My dog is going off out there. You got to own it. All right. All right. You've got to spend some time discovering your purpose. Spend some time discovering your purpose. Listen, it's gonna take you to spend time doing it. Listen, what you are the sum total of how you spend your time. And it's a good investment on your time, on your life, on all of the people around you if you take that time that you're using and squandering doing nothing and spend it on finding your purpose. And you're going to have a different purpose for different areas of your life that you take ownership for. But you've got to spend some time finding your purpose. I read this quote by Dr. Miles Monroe. He says this: what you do in your downtime determines what you become in time. What you do in your downtime determines what you become in time. Right? And so we give 120% to the 9 to 5. But he says what you do after 5 for yourself and for your family is going to determine what you become. I'm spending the first part of this, establishing the importance of purpose. I love what Simon Sinek says. We can articulate our what. We can articulate our how, but we can't articulate our why. You got to be able to do that. Listen, without purpose, your goals and plans are orphans. Without purpose, your goals and plans are orphans. Purpose is the parent of goals and plans. And we're excellent with goals and plans. We're going to talk about goals next week. We're going to talk about SMART goals. We're going to talk about all of those different types of goals you make. But I promise you, if you started 2023 with goals, even plans, but you don't know your purpose, you're going to be in the same place. Listen, you got to know the purpose. You got to know why you do what you do. And I like what he said in here, because he said money is the result of what we do. But money should not be the purpose. We oftentimes chase paper, right? And not purpose. We chase money and not ministry. And I don't want you to get scared with the term ministry. I'm not talking about in an ecclesiastical sense. I'm not talking about just a preacher or whatever. But whatever God has gifted you with is your ministry. Whatever he's gifted you to do is your ministry. For some of us, that's counseling. For some of us, that's leadership. For some of us, that's cooking. That's our ministry. And if you don't understand your purpose, you're not going to walk in that. All right. You're not going to walk in whatever your ministry are. Stop chasing paper, stop chasing money, and start chasing your purpose. Start chasing your ministry. All right. And so in Proverbs 19:21, I got three scriptures that I'm gonna drop today. I got three. Proverbs 19:21, he says something powerful here. This is Solomon. Solomon is the wisest man that ever lived. Listen to what he says. Proverbs 19:21. Write that down if you can. Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. That's a bar. That's a bar right there. Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that's going to stand. Listen, he gives us three things there. He gives us some things about purpose there that's very simple. Purpose is more powerful than goals and plans. He says it. He says, many are the plans that you have, but ultimately, the purpose of the caller is what's going to prevail. So purpose is more powerful than your goals and your plans. Purpose is more powerful than your goals and your plans. Your power is in knowing and fulfilling your purpose through your goals and your plans. Listen, purpose is more powerful. I know that it's already the first week of the year. It's gone. Right? But it's not too late to establish and to find and start fulfilling your purpose. All right, you got to do that. Purpose is more powerful than plans. He also shows us that purpose precedes plans. Right? Your purpose should come before your goals and your plans. Why? Because if you're called, then there's a caller. And that caller has already established your purpose. Didn't he tell Jeremiah that? He said, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. And then I did what? I called you. You were already purposed before you were even brought here. PK 10 says, finding your purpose will challenge you to be your best in every capacity, every role, every title. That's good. Finding your purpose will challenge you. It's a challenge. And we shy away from challenges now. We don't want to be challenged. We want to be comfortable. But we have to understand that to find and fulfill our purpose is going to take a challenge. It's going to take a challenge. Listen, purpose is more powerful than goals and plans. Purpose precedes plans. Don't set goals or plans without purpose. I've said that 100 times tonight. I'm going to say it 100 more. Don't set goals and plans if you don't know your purpose. You're shooting at nothing and you're hitting it every time. Listen, the third thing we see right there in Proverbs 19:21 is purpose is more important than plans. He said, many are the plans of a man, but it's the Lord's purpose that ultimately prevails. Listen, and so purpose is so essential, but we miss it all the time. And Solomon talks a lot in the book of Proverbs about purpose, but we don't talk about that. We get so hyped up over setting goals. Listen, you can go in a lot of business. I do some consulting work with leaders. They can always tell me what their goals are, what their intentions are, what their monthly focus is. But if I ask them for a purpose statement, they don't know what it is. Why is it that you do what you do? And why are you walking in this plan, or why is this even a goal? They can't tell me a why. They can only tell me a how and a what. And that's why they're not as successful as they would like to be, because they don't know why they're doing it. I promise you, if you got a business right now, it will go to the next level if you start to understand what your why is. And if your why is just making money, you'll stay the same. But if your why is to do something to touch someone else, and you understand that every day you put your hands to the plow, it's going to go to the next level. Listen, Proverbs, Solomon says this In Proverbs 20:5, he says, the purpose in a man's heart is like deep water, but a man of understanding would draw it out. He gives us another part of purpose that we oftentimes miss. Your purpose is nothing if you don't understand it. Your purpose is nothing. Purpose without understanding is wasted potential. Whew. Purpose without understanding is wasted potential, right? You've got to get to a place where you're going to spend some time discovering why you do what you do, and why it's important, and why you should even care and others should care. And if you don't do that, you've wasted potential. And what you do when you don't walk in that, when you don't walk in excellence, what you're actually doing is you're telling the caller, you're telling God, listen, you could have gave this potential to somebody else. You've got to walk in excellence, and you've got to understand your purpose. Your purpose is more important than your plans, but purpose without understanding is wasted potential. Cuz, oh man, it's my cousin, y'all. Love her. She always look out for me. Always look out for me. Purpose without understanding is wasted potential. And you'll find the most amount of wasted potential in the cemetery. Wasted potential. So many people die without walking in their full potential because they never understood their purpose. What did I say at the beginning? You were born because there's something God wanted done that requires your presence. That's personal. That's personal. Yeah, God could choose other people. God could do some things with the other people, but He's placed something in you specifically, in you, that He needs done through you. Purpose without understanding is wasted potential. If you forget everything else that was said, purpose without understanding is wasted potential. And so, understanding is powerful. The scripture says, with all thy getting, get what? Understanding. Understanding. That's what, man. I'm gonna mess with the church folk. That's why so many church folk are messed up. Is because we read the Bible, we hear the word, we jump over the pews, we do all of those things, and we ain't have no understanding. With all you're getting, get understanding. If I'm going to give 100% at whatever it is I'm doing, I need some understanding. I need to understand why I'm doing it, or I'm wasting potential. I'm wasting potential. All right. All right. All right. Understanding is the bucket that draws the water of purpose from your heart. Understanding is the bucket that draws the water of purpose from your heart. You got to know what purpose is. You need to figure out what your purposes are, because you got a different purpose for each title in your life, right? You got to know what that purpose is in your life. You got to make it personal to you. But if you don't understand it, and if you don't understand how to walk out that purpose, you're going to go to the grave one day with untapped potential. You know what a seed is? We talked about this before. A seed that's just sitting on the table is just untapped potential. A seed is just untapped potential. And when you put that seed in the proper environment, that potential begins to come out. Your purpose is like that seed. It's untapped until you understand it. Till you begin to understand what you were placed here to do. And you got to do it on an excellent level. I'm gonna get to that in a second. So here on the Practical Purpose Podcast, again, we try to talk about these life principles, but I try to give you a biblical perspective on those life principles, right? And the best person to talk about when you talk about purpose is Jesus. Understood his purpose, right? There are probably hundreds of texts in the Bible that tell us what his purpose was, but I found one, and I want to share that one with you. It's in Luke 4. Luke 4, we've been in Luke a lot on the Practical Purpose Podcast. Luke 4, 18 and 19. Listen to what he says. He gives us 3 nuggets about purpose. And this is after he's come out of the wilderness. He's been tempted or whatever. And he gives us 3 nuggets about purpose. Listen to this, because this is good. He says in Luke 4:18 and 19, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives, and recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Goals and plans are nowhere in that text. It's not there. He's not talking about goals and plans. He's not talking about how he's going to do those things. He's talking about why he's on the earth. Why is he here? His purpose. And he gives us three things in the last few minutes. He gives us three things about purpose. Listen to the first thing he said. This is good. He says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me. Listen, point number one, you are anointed. That's for the church folk. You are empowered and you are gifted for a purpose. You are anointed, empowered, or gifted, whichever term you want to use. You are anointed, empowered, or gifted for a purpose. It's for a purpose. Whatever your gift is. Some of y'all got a gift for singing. I don't. So some of us have a gift of fitness. Listen, Coach Clark on here. That's my son's coach. Fitness guru, gifted. Right? Some of y'all got a gift for cooking. Look, my sister on here. Where's she at? I'm looking for DeAndre. Cook a cake. Listen, Lord have mercy. Can bake it. Gifted. Right? Gifted. You are gifted for a purpose. And the problem is there's so many people who have not tapped into their potential, have not tapped into their purpose because they don't understand that they are gifted for a reason. Listen, the first thing he says here is that he's anointed. He says that he's anointed. I like Miss Robinson. Man, that's my people. Miss Robinson. So, oh my goodness. And people be coming on here and I be wanting to share stories about her. Miss Robinson. Oh man, I worked with her some years ago. Strong lady. I remember she went through a tough time when her home burned down. Came to work and was just strong. I remember that, Miss R. I see you. I appreciate you. The cook's in here. My brother, the cooks is in here. He one of them. Man, live right around the corner from me. Cook be throwing down. Don't never call your boy to come get me. Nah, I'm just playing. That's my boy. Listen. You gotta understand that you're gifted. You're gifted. You're gifted for a reason. The gift that you've been given by the caller, the gift that you've been given is given to you for a reason. And we're going to see that he tells us the reasons, right? Jesus, not only was Jesus God in that big sense of who he was also the Messiah. What does that mean? As God, he was Elohim, God over creation, right? Right. But he also chose to be the Messiah, the one that saves, because he was anointed to do something. And if Jesus had to be gifted and anointed and empowered to do something, you're not exempt. And I'm not exempt. There's some intangibles, there's some gifts that he's given us that you got to walk out practically in your life. That's the purpose of this. This ain't to be deep. You got to walk it out practically as a father, as a grandfather, as a friend, as a husband. You got to walk it out practically. Listen, your purpose is only fulfilled through the excellency of your anointing. Your purpose is only fulfilled through the excellency of your gift and your empowerment. Listen, how excellent are you in your gift? My best friend, both of my best friends, Cheese and Barry, we got a little mastermind. We talk every day. A little video chat thing we do. We talk every day. And Barry asked the question. He said, "This year, what are you gonna do to fine tune your gift?" He said, "You got to read some books. You got to go to some conferences. You got to do some things to fine tune your gift." Listen, your purpose is only fulfilled through the excellency of your anointing. Like, you got to be excellent in what you're doing. Man, my son's coach, he's on here, Coach Clark. And we were shorthanded today. We were shorthanded. We had a few players missing, and we only had 4 guys, right? And we had to take a younger player and let him play with us so we could have 5. Before the game, coach was like, "Hey, I got to go in my bag today. It don't matter what's on the floor. I got to coach it, right? I got to be excellent and do what I'm supposed to do. I got to be excellent and do my job. Listen, your purpose is only fulfilled through the excellency of your gifting, your empowerment, or your anointing. Listen, point number 2 he makes here. Point number 2, I see something. Hold on. Action steps the only way to reach a goal. That's true. You got to do something. We're going to talk about that in a few weeks when we talk about plans. Point number 2. Someone is depending on you to fulfill your purpose. Someone is depending on you to fulfill your purpose. It's right there in the text. So for my church folk that think I'm lying, it's right here. He says, I'm gifted, I'm anointed to proclaim good news to myself. No, he didn't say that. To the poor. It's for someone else. Sent to proclaim liberty to captives, recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty the oppressed. Listen, your gifting is for someone else. Someone is dependent on you to fulfill your purpose. Someone is dependent on you to fulfill your purpose. Listen, fulfilling your purpose is the answer to someone's problem. Remember we said earlier that oftentimes frustration will point you toward your purpose. The things that frustrate you the most are oftentimes the things that you have been called to fix. Listen, someone is dependent on you. Someone's problem you have the answer to. And oftentimes you are the answer to someone else's problem. You're the answer. You are the answer to someone else's problem, and you have the answer to someone else's problem. Listen, in the text, we see it. Jesus was the answer to all of the problems of the oppressed, of the blind, of the sick. He was the answer. Now, I'm not saying you're Jesus or you're on Jesus's level, because you're not, and I'm not. What I'm saying is he's given us a purpose. He's given us a gifting, and that gifting and that purpose is the answer to someone else's problem. To the degree that you walk out your purpose is the degree to which you bless yourself and others. To the degree that you walk out your purpose is the degree that you bless yourself and you bless others. Listen, one way you really discover your purpose is when you really walking in your purpose, there's a sense of fulfillment that you get. Listen, when I'm teaching, it don't matter what I'm teaching, whether or not I'm teaching scripture, or whether or not I'm teaching social studies, or whether I'm teaching children in elementary school, or whether or not I'm teaching the adults at WGU, whatever it is I'm doing, I understand part of my purpose of being here is to educate. But the different titles that I may have are all a part of educating. When I was a basketball coach years ago, when I did middle and high school basketball, listen, that was just a part of me educating. Right? Even doing the podcast, it's a part of me educating. My purpose, part of my purpose and part of my gift is the gift of teaching, the gift of educating people. So oftentimes, it doesn't matter how it looks or how I'm doing it. I'm always walking in my purpose, or attempting to walk in my purpose. All right. And so the degree to which you walk in your purpose is also the degree to which you bless yourself. Listen, it feels good when you've blessed someone else with your gift. It feels good when you know that you've been able to help someone through something, or help someone, or when you know that you've given them an answer they didn't have before, or you've come into their life and become the answer that they didn't know or have before. You're always in a mode of fulfillment when you find your purpose. And listen, we hear it all the time. Money won't fulfill you. Material things are not going to fulfill you, right? People say money don't make you happy. It'll make you happy, but it may not fulfill you. The only things that will fulfill you is to be have to be directly tied and correlated to your purpose. That's it. That's it. I got a few more minutes. So the first thing we see is that you are gifted, empowered, anointed for a purpose. The second thing we see is someone is dependent on you to fulfill your purpose. That's why it's essential. I can't get off of that. That's why it's essential for you to find your purpose, because somebody else is dependent on you. Listen, I said it earlier. There are people in the cemetery right now that are there. They didn't fulfill their purpose, maybe, but we missed the fact that if someone else would have fulfilled their purpose, they might still be here. Think about it. Are you fulfilling your purpose? Are you excellent on your level? Write out your titles. Are you excellent at each one of them? How much time do you put in becoming better at each one of them? You gotta fulfill your purpose because somebody's dependent on you. Listen, here's the third thing we see in the text about purpose, and I'm done. Favor, he says he's going to proclaim the acceptable year. King James says acceptable year, but some versions, and this version, which I think is the ESV, says he's going to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. All right. Favor is the fruit of fulfilled purpose. Favor is the fruit of fulfilled purpose. Listen, when you're doing what God, listen, we said that you're called, right? We established that you're called. We established that if you're called, there's a caller, right? Which means that the caller has something for you to do. And when you're doing what the caller has called you to do, he favors you. He favors you. We talk about favor every Sunday. I told you I'd be upsetting the church folk. We talk about favor every Sunday, but we don't talk about the fact that God favors excellence and God favors people who are walking and fulfilling their purpose. They're walking and fulfilling their purpose. Favor ain't fair. That's what they say. That's what we say, right? Favor ain't fair. Yeah, God favors people who are excellent. God favors people who are fulfilling their purpose. Listen, the favor of God was proclaimed after the Messiah fulfilled his purpose. A part of him fulfilling the purpose that he was sent to do was proclaiming that he was the expression of God's favor. I'm trying not to be too theological. He was the express image of God's favor, of God's love. He was God's favor. And when you are fulfilling your purpose, people should see the caller in you. People should see favor on your life, not because you're great, but because you're walking in the purpose that you are meant to walk in. Listen, when you get a new car, when you get a new gadget, when you get anything that's new, the manufacturer has created it for a reason. And it works at its optimum level when you're using it for that reason. Think about that. It works at its optimal performing level when it's being used for the reason it was created for. When you use the lawnmower to cut the grass, it's at its optimum level, right? That's what it was created for. And when you understand your purpose, you are moving and operating at an optimum level because you understand the reason you were called and purposed for being on the earth. Listen, I'm gonna say it again. You were born because there's something God wanted done that requires your presence. What is it that he needs done or wanted done that requires your presence? Listen, I promise you, your son will not become the son that God has called him to be without you. Your daughter will not become the daughter that she's supposed to be without you. That coworker will not be as excellent as they are called to be without you. Yeah, someone could replace you, but there's a reason why you're there. Listen. Many of us want favor, but are not willing to work out our purpose. Many of us want favor, but we're not willing to work out our purpose. In our mastermind this week, my best friend Cheese, Chris, we call him Cheese. Hey, y'all in the dungeon with me tonight. Y'all you call him Cheese. Listen, Cheese said something powerful. Cheese said a lot of people have good intentions, but they're not intentional. That sat with me. Because that describes this whole series of beginning again. People have good intentions, they create goals, they create plans with good intention rather, but they don't walk it out because they're not intentional. Listen, you want favor on your life, you want the blessing, you want all of those things, right? But you're not willing to work out your purpose. You will be your optimum self when you're walking in the purpose you were created for. I promise you, try to vacuum your carpet with your lawnmower. That's not the purpose it was created for. But it's going to be its optimum self when you put it in the environment that is conducive to it walking out its purpose. And here's the thing: if we've established that your purpose is the answer to a problem, and that your purpose and you may be the answer to the problem from someone else, then that also shows us that oftentimes, in order for our purpose to really be fulfilled and realized, watch this, we've got to be in difficult situations that have problems for our purpose to be realized. Your purpose may not be realized when everything is good, because your purpose is the answer to a problem. So you've got to get into some problems in order to discover, find, and fulfill your purpose. That's good. PK 10 says, you don't decide your purpose in life, you discover it. Your purpose is your reason for living, for being called. That's true. That's true. You don't walk in anything because you chose to do it. There's a manufacturer that put you here, that created you for optimum reason, to be at your best self in purpose. Right? So in that text we see, and I'm wrapping it up. In that text we see that Jesus was anointed, he was gifted, he was empowered for a purpose, right? We also see that someone is depending on you to fulfill your purpose, right? Though all of those blind people had Jesus not walked by. Listen, blind Bartimaeus, y'all know the story of blind Bartimaeus that's sitting by the street, screaming out for help. Look, if Jesus didn't walk by, he would still be blind Bartimaeus, right? He was dependent on Jesus to fulfill his purpose, even if he didn't know it. He would still be blind Bartimaeus if Jesus didn't walk by and fulfill his purpose. How many people are suffering because you're not fulfilling your purpose? I told y'all on Practical Purpose Podcast, we got to be self-reflective, man. The only way you can improve, you can't improve. It's one of my favorite quotes. You cannot improve what you're afraid to evaluate. How many people are suffering because you're not fulfilling your purpose? I would hate to die and find out that someone else died or didn't get what they were supposed to get in life because I didn't fulfill my purpose. How many people suffering? How many problems could you be solving right now if you were really fulfilling your purpose? And see, the thing about purpose is it don't matter how old you are. It don't matter how young you are. It don't matter how much melanin is in your skin. None of that matters. If you're walking in purpose, you should be helped. The fruit of knowing that you're walking in purpose is that someone else is being blessed by your presence. Let me say that again. The fruit of knowing that you're walking in purpose is that someone else is being blessed by your presence. If someone is not being blessed by your presence, then you're not walking in your purpose. You're not walking in your purpose because you've been put here to do something by God that only you can do. That is that intangible or something that he put in you. Remember, he told Jeremiah, before I even formed you in the womb, I already knew you. That word "knew" there is a relational word. It doesn't mean I just know who you are. I know everything about you. And because of that, I called you. Listen, when David was anointed to be king, Samuel comes to the house and all the brothers are in the house. Jesse, the father, is like, yo, here go my kids. One of them should be the king. Samuel looks around. I'm ebonizing it a little bit. Samuel looks around and he says, man, it ain't none of these guys. Don't you got somebody else? And he said, well, I got my youngest boy. He out there shepherding the sheep. Samuel say, go get him. What was David doing? David was out there walking in his purpose. And the sign to Samuel that David was the king that should have been anointed was that he was shepherding his sheep. Oftentimes, God gives us things to do on a smaller level that is an indication of the greatness that we're going to walk into. Had he not shepherded sheep well, he wouldn't have been able to shepherd God's people well. And if you want to be called and walk in your purpose, you've got to be fulfilling it with the little things that you do every day. It's not always the big things. David was out there with sheep, and the next moment he was anointed to be king. He was doing what he was purposed and called to do at the moment that he became anointed to be king. You're anointed, you're empowered, you're gifted. Someone is dependent on that gift. You are the answer to someone's problem, or you have the answer to someone's problem, or you've been gifted to deliver the answer to someone's problem. And the last part is favor. It's the fruit of fulfilled purpose. You want favor in your life? Find your purpose and be excellent in whatever you do. All right, so here's your homework, because I told y'all I'm an educator. Here's your homework. I want you to spend some time finding or confirming your purpose. Here's how I want you to do it. I want you to write down this week. I want you to write down all the titles that you hold. Write it down on a sheet of paper. You may write mother. You may write father. You may write coach. You may write business owner. You may write husband. You may write wife. You may write whatever your title is at your job. Real estate agent, truck driver, whatever it is. Write down your titles. And then I want you, next to your title, to write how you are excellent with that title. How are you excellent with it? What are you doing to be an excellent? Listen, when I used to coach basketball, man, my wife used to basketball season. Practice, come home, man. I'm trying to find something. I'm studying coaches. Like I'm studying Coach K. I'm studying Coach Izzo. I'm studying coaches. Why? Because I ain't want to just be good. I want to be excellent. What are you doing in each one of those titles? And once you identify what you are and are not doing to become excellent in each one of those titles, now you can start going to goals and plans, right? You can start saying, hey, I'm a good father, but I ain't doing nothing to work on being a better father. How can I be a better father? Listen, one of my brothers is on here right now, and he said to me earlier, He be blessing me, man. He said to me earlier, I said, man, you gonna play volleyball. I told y'all last week we play volleyball, right? He said, I said, you gonna play volleyball tonight? He was like, man, my babies both made the A honor roll. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. We might be doing something tonight. Right, right. That's prioritizing, right? And being excellent as a father. Right? What are you doing when you write down your titles? What are you doing to grow in that area? Whatever area it is. What are you doing to be a better friend? Are you having honest conversations with your friends? What are you doing to be a better grandfather? What are you doing to be? You say you're a Christian. What are you doing to be better? How much you read your Bible? I ain't talking about just praise and worship. That's good too, right? How much you read? How much you stay before God? How much you pray? Right? Find the titles. Your titles are going to push you toward your purpose. And if you take every title that God has given you and you become excellent at each one of those, you're going to find a similarity. You're going to find a common denominator that's going to push you toward your purpose. For me, it's educating. Every title that I have in some area, I'm educating with that title. That makes sense. My purpose is to educate. My purpose is to teach. Listen, there used to be a time there were certain people. I'm going to my sister. She ain't called me like that. But now, with something going on, when she needs some clarity, she'll call me. And as a brother, I'm educating. As a husband, when my wife need to know about something, when my wife is struggling with anything, I'm educating. Right? As a leader in the school, I'm educating. As an evaluator for WGU, I'm educating. My every title that I have in my life has the commonality of the gift of teaching and educating. That's my purpose. My purpose is to be excellent on all those levels. So here's your homework. Here's your homework. I went overtime. Here's your homework. Write down your titles. How are you excellent in each one? What can you do to improve in each one? And find the commonality in all the titles that you have. And that is going to be the discovery or the fulfillment or the confirmation of your purpose. Brian Something says, who in your life is going lacking because you are not fulfilling your purpose? Coach Clark says, your title is going to push you towards your purpose. Listen, and oftentimes I read this in a book. Dr. Darius Daniels, Your Purpose is Calling. He talked about in his book how it was a lady who was a teacher. And her gift, her title was just a 6th grade, 7th grade teacher. But her gift was teaching. And she would decline jobs and decline other opportunities because she thought her gift was 6th grade teacher. But her gift, her purpose was teaching. And oftentimes there are different titles, but there's the same purpose. And that's why you discover your purpose. That's why sometimes you're scared to take another position. You're scared to take another job because you see that job as your purpose, but your purpose is the underlying reason why you're doing the job. Your title is going to push you to your purpose. All right, your title is going to push you to your purpose. So we talked about beginning again. Tonight we talked about purpose. Next week we're going to talk about goals. We're going to talk about goals because goals are important. Goals are important. And whether or not you're setting goals, whether or not you think you are, you're setting goals. If you purpose not to do something, you're setting a goal not to do it. So you gotta be strategic. We're going to talk about SMART goals. I'm going to talk about the good parts of SMART goals, but there are also some parts that are counterproductive, if you will, with SMART goals. And we're going to talk about just goals next week, and then the following podcast we'll close out talking about plans. All right. So we'll be back again in a few weeks or next week to talk about goals, and then we'll talk about plans. But I want you to do your homework. I want you to do your homework. I want you to share this. There's somebody that you know that needed to hear this about purpose. Share it with them. Get the link, share it with them. Share, share, share. I don't need your money. I don't need you to send them no money to me. Share. Because the more people that are walking in their purpose, the more problems are being solved in the earth. And if you're of the Christian faith, the more problems are being solved in the church. The more people that are walking in your purpose. What's the common denominator with every title that you hold? That'll be your purpose. That frustration, whatever it is that frustrates you, you are oftentimes called to fix. Listen, I'm Dr. Williams. This is the Practical Purpose Podcast. We'll be back again next Saturday, live at 5, back in the dungeon to talk about setting goals, a part of the series, Begin Again. Like, share, subscribe, send this to as many people as you can. Be a blessing. Walk in, find, fulfill your purpose. Until next time.